say that I did visit Paul just a few days before he died, and we're good. The other thing I wanted to say is, and Ellen pointed this out to me, which is so weird seeing everybody here, is that Paul, oh, I'm going to turn
Lower that
I'm
music.
going to turn Sondheim on. I know, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Paul was really weird about, he had pods of friends. He had his Milligan friends, his new LA friends, his, I don't know, lots of different, and you're all here tonight. So it probably explains why people don't know each other. And there's a word for it, you said, for people who do that.
Splitting?
It's splitting. And it's really funny that it, now I probably know more of a lot of you than other people because we lived together in this house and a lot of you guys came over. But it's just so weird. And Ellen said it happened in New York too, that all these people came either to the funeral or to the show or showed up to visit Paul and nobody knew anybody. It was just that weird, one of those weird parts of Paul. And now I guess we have the ultimate joke is here we are all. It's because I want to say something about Paul and then I want other people to say whatever they want. I have one incredibly outrageous story that I'm not going to tell.
You can't do that.
Well, I might let, it's pretty, it's like a lot of trigger warnings and stuff.
It's really true. It's really true. There's so many trigger warnings in here for people, like that are going to make everybody kind of nuts. So you have to just suspend all of them.
All right, I mean, if you're okay with this, if anybody's, triggered, run out there, run out there.
Paul never cared about trigger warnings.
Exactly.
Well, he didn't care.
He invented triggering.
He invented it.
Sorry, he did.
He got a kick out of it.
So
All
in
right, I'm gonna say it.
Paul was a trigger.
He was a trigger. And I'm sure we've all been triggered by Paul. Okay, I will tell this story. And unfortunately, this is a story about my sister. When Paul,
He's not here.
Thank God, he's not.
Because you wouldn't be hearing it if you
No, I could not tell this story. So if any of you ever meet my sister, you don't know this story. My sister was married, and she had been married previously. And it was a really bad marriage. She was really young, and it was a very abusive, like one of those you read about that we don't talk about anymore. So I said to Paul when we were in the car on our way to meet my sister, I said, whatever you do, don't bring up her first husband.
What happened?
So my sister's name is Robin. So after we had dinner, which was very pleasant, and they liked each other, we're all sitting around the living room, and Paul said to my sister, "So I understand you were married before." And oh no, please, Paul. And she goes, "Uh-huh." And he said, "And I understand he wasn't very nice to you." And she said, "No, he wasn't." And he said, "Well, give me an example of some of the stuff he was doing." Now, my sister could have said, "I don't want to talk about this," but she was sort of like, "Who is this exotic creature?" And she said, "Well, one time," and this was in this was in Arizona. She said, "One time I was late coming home from work, and he threw all of my clothes out the window and locked the door." And he said, "What else?" And she said, and he just kept going, and he just kept plowing it. And she said, "Well, one time I had a little dog, and he got mad at me, and he hung the dog by the leash up on the top, and the dog strangled himself to death." And Paul went, "What else did he do?"
Oh my
"I told you, I warned you."
I'm triggered.
God. It's getting really dark. Pull us up now.
And this is just the
Keep
beginning.
going.
No, it's almost over.
Get to the punchline.
Before we jump off that
There is
button.
none. It gets worse.
And he said, "Well, what else did he do?" She said, "One time he put a lit cigarette out on my hand." And he said, "He smoked?" Our friend Tess once said something wonderful about Paul. When you'd had us to dinner and there was somebody there who had just gotten, who was pregnant and she didn't want to talk about who the father was, and he just pushed it and pushed it and pushed it, and it was not funny, and it was just sort of shut down. Do you remember this?
Who was the person?
I can't say. And you said about Paul, you know, Paul, you're really funny, but sometimes you just go too far. You don't know when to stop. And that was really true about Paul. And it was kind of the story of his life, and it got him into a lot of trouble. And I'm sure everybody has their version of that story. But anyway, he definitely is somebody who it's beyond we'll never forget. It's just like it's all there. He's just definitely the most unforgettable person I ever knew. So, Bonnie,
Okay, so when I think of Paul, I think of someone that I would do things with that nobody else wanted to do with me. Like all the ridiculous, insane things. Like we would go and see, you know, like I remember the first time when the first South Park came out. He and I went together. We would go to a matinee, and we sat, like he sat one row in front of me, I sat one row behind him. And we were laughing so hard, we were rolling in the aisles. I mean, we would, and then when it was all over, I remember we went out into the lobby and they had all these like pinball games and all this. That was Paul. We would always find something really weird that no one else wanted to do and do it together. One time I remember we were in London together, and he schlepped me to some like theater that we had to go to the other ends of the earth, and it was like a 4-hour production of Medea, but like an avant-garde production, and it was like so amazing. It was something that you would never ever do or do again, but that you would do with Paul. Or the other story I remember about Paul, we were all in Italy together. Jim and I, the two of us, and Rick and Paul, and we'd gone to see this mutual friend, Sarah, who sadly has since died as well. And she and her husband had rented this place, this amazing place in Italy that we were all staying. And Paul really got into this thing that he wanted to find pot. And he was like, and I'm gonna find it. And we would go into like Florence and go in, you know, we're all like looking at museums, and Paul is running around, you know, like all the people that sell the purses and all the like all that kind of stuff. And he'd go up to them and he'd say, "Excuse me, do you know where I could get any pot?" And they were all probably thinking that he was, you know, like a narc or something. So we would go, no, I know what you're talking about. And then finally, we gotten back to the place that she rented, and they were the last people he hadn't asked in all of Florence to get pot. And he goes into the people who are cooking and doing the thing, and he says, "Do you know anywhere?" And they all went, "Yeah," and they all like went to that. So, you know, that was Paul. I mean, Paul
Fearless.
just fearless. When he would get an idea in his head, he would just go with it and just, you know, I mean, just catch you up in it. I mean, he really, you talk about like a natural child, right? I mean, he was just always able to just go right there. And there was just no one as funny and as weird
And off the wall.
all of those amazing,
Yes.
in the best way, yeah. And it's, you know, I mean, it's a huge loss. It really is. I mean,
I actually have a kind of gentler story. No, I love all the stories except